Welcome to Elevated Women. I'm Myra Swan Kotze. If you are a woman in senior leadership, an executive carrying the weight of massive responsibility, this space is for you. My clients often call me their secret weapon, not for strategy or tactics, but for managing the silent accumulation of pressure that comes with leading at this level. Here we talk about the one thing most leadership spaces ignore: how that pressure lives in your body. This is where we explore what it really takes to stay in the role you love without your health, your clarity, or your family paying the price. I'm glad to have you here. Hello, and welcome back to Elevated Women. This season of the podcast, season 2, is for women in senior leadership and executive roles. But when I speak to you here, I am not speaking to the title you hold or the role people see. I'm speaking to you, the woman inside the role. Because leadership conversations talk a lot about resilience. It's one of those words that appears everywhere in the corporate environment. Resilient leaders, resilient organizations, resilient teams. But what's interesting is that very few people ever explain what resilience actually means inside the body. And it's simple. It's because they don't know. And you can't blame them. Very few people actually do know. And that's where the conversation becomes important. Because when you spend years carrying responsibility, pressure doesn't only exist in your role. It begins to live in the nervous system, deep inside of your body. Understanding that is what I often call the secret weapon for executives managing the silent accumulation of pressure. Because when resilience is understood correctly, leadership becomes something that can remain sustainable over time. Now, I need to tell you that you are doing this. Almost every single executive out there is doing it too, men and women. We suppress the body signals, the signals that your body is sending. We suppress them and we just continue. And that can become extremely dangerous. I don't want to make you afraid. I don't want you to overthink this. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you are going to learn the realities and you're going to see the realities. You're already seeing it around you. People cannot stay in their positions for as long as they want to. Heart attacks, strokes is very popular among men and women. And I don't want anyone to get to that. And I know you're probably sitting listening to this saying, it's not going to happen to me. But if you keep suppressing your body's signals, chances are it's either going to happen or you're going to leave your job before it happens because of the signals your body sends. Okay, so let's carry on. Most leadership environments teach us resilience as endurance. It's about staying composed when things are difficult, making decisions when the situation is complex, continuing to perform when pressure increases. And many women in senior leadership are extremely good at this. We are, because that's why we are in these positions. Now, I'm no longer in an executive position. I gave that up years ago. But I know what you're going through. I've been there. And I know what you're going through because I work with women in senior positions to help them with this problem. They've learned how to remain steady when others feel overwhelmed. They can move through demanding situations without losing clarity. They can hold responsibility for teams, products, projects, and organizations. This kind of resilience is valuable, very valuable. And that is why you are in the position that you are, because not everyone is made equally and not everyone can handle this. But it's only half of the picture. because the body defines resilience differently. For the nervous system, resilience is not just about how well you function during pressure. It's about how well your system recovers after pressure. The nervous system works in cycles, pretty much like our menstrual cycle. When pressure appears, the body activates. Your attention sharpens, energy becomes available, you become more alert. This response allows you to make decisions, manage situations, and navigate complexity. But after the pressure passes, the body is designed to return to equilibrium. The nervous system settles, muscles release, breathing deepens, and the system resets. When the cycle happens naturally, pressure doesn't accumulate. But we all know that that doesn't continue happening. It doesn't run naturally, and pressure keeps building. Your body responds, processes the experience, and then moves forward. But when recovery becomes incomplete, stimulation stays in the system longer than it should. And in many cases, for many, many years, it will stay. And it keeps building. And it keeps adding on, month after month, year after year. And that's where things begin to change over time. And it can become extremely dangerous. Many women in leadership begin to notice this slowly because the body gives the signals slowly in the beginning. They might feel tension in their shoulders that never fully disappears. I told you about that in episode 1, what happened to me. Sleep may become lighter or more interrupted. You may find it harder to switch off mentally. Or you might notice that your nervous system remains slightly alert or even a little bit more than slightly alert when the day is finished. These signals are often easy to dismiss. High performance tends to normalize them. They assume that it's just a cost of leadership. And executive coaches push how to grow through pressure. Most executive coaches has a certification, and others have been executives themselves, and they learned how to grow through pressure, and that's the industry normal. So you can't blame them for not knowing better. Those with a certification hasn't lived your life. And those who have lived it don't know better. So they teach, grow through pressure. But that is not sustainable, and it is extremely dangerous. But what's actually happening is something very physiological. The nervous system has been carrying stimulation for many years without enough opportunity to fully reset. That doesn't mean that you are in overwhelm. It doesn't mean you are close to burnout. It simply means the body has been holding more pressure than it has processed. But if we keep avoiding that, burnout does become a very realistic future. And it has become very realistic for my clients. Many of my clients have had that reality of starting to think, I can't continue like this. Many of my clients have had very painful, strong symptoms from continuing to process the pressure, to leave it there, not to process it, to leave it there, to just ignore it. So one of the things I often hear from women I work with privately is this: I can handle pressure during the day, but my body doesn't seem to relax anymore. And that's common for almost 90% of my clients. That sentence reveals something very important. Their ability to perform hasn't disappeared. They are still capable, they still respected, and they are still effective. But their nervous system has shifted from recovery resilience to endurance resilience. In other words, they can still carry pressure for a period of time, but their system no longer resets the way it once did. And ignored, that becomes a problem. And when that happens for long periods of time, the body begins to ask for support. But what do? We ignore it. For many women, this shift becomes more visible later in leadership, often somewhere in their late 40s and early 50s. For me, it came in my early 40s because I climbed the corporate ladder very fast, and then my husband and I started our own group of companies. So for me, it really became very relevant in my life quite early in my 40s. And by that point, you've spent decades performing at a high level. If you're a corporate ladder climber or you're a founder, this could happen far earlier. It could happen in your late 30s, early 40s. So just think about it when you're listening to this episode. You've led teams, you've handled complex decisions, you've managed demanding environments, and your resilience has carried you through many, many seasons. But eventually the body begins asking a question quietly. How much longer can I keep doing this in the same way? Not because you lack any ability, not because you've lost interest in your work, but because the nervous system has been carrying pressure for many years and you've been ignoring it. We all do. This is often the stage where women begin questioning the long-term future of their leadership position. Not because they want to leave. None of my clients wants to leave. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to sell everything and pack up and go to Thailand at that point. But because their body feels like it has been carrying a great deal for a long time. Real resilience is not the ability to carry more pressure than everyone else. Real resilience is the body's ability to process pressure and return to equilibrium. I've learned this the hard way. And because I have learned it the hard way, I'm here to show you that you don't need to learn it the hard way. When the nervous system can regulate properly, pressure does not accumulate in the same way. The system activates when necessary, and then it settles again. Clarity returns, energy stabilizes, and leadership becomes sustainable again. Not because the environment has changed, but because the body is no longer carrying years of unresolved stimulation. And that is exactly what I help my clients with. I help them to get rid of all the years of unresolved stimulation, build up pressure and stress so that they can heal and they can stay in their positions. I want to invite you to consider something simple. When the day ends, does your body fully settle again? Or does a part of your nervous system remain slightly or even just a little bit more than slightly alert? I want you to be very honest with yourself right here and right now. Answer that with as much honesty as you can, because this is the break point. Many women realize that their systems has been holding tension for years when I ask them this question. They simply become accustomed to living that way. We all do. I did too. And I know you're doing it as well. But the body was never designed to stay permanently activated. It was designed to return to balance. And when that happens, resilience becomes something very different. Not endurance, but sustainable capacity. And that's where I want to take you. To sustainable capacity. because then you heal and you can stay in your position that you love so much for much longer. Resilience is often misunderstood. It isn't about pushing harder or carrying more pressure. True resilience is the body's ability to process pressure and return to equilibrium. When the nervous system receives the support it needs, recovery returns, clarity returns, and leadership can remain something you continue doing for many years to come without your body having to pay the price. If something in this conversation resonated with you, and you're a woman in senior leadership who recognizes the impact sustained pressure may be having on your body, I invite you to learn more about my private work at myraswankotze.com. I work with a small number of executive women who want to stabilize their nervous system, protect their health, and continue leading without their body quietly carrying the cost. I also invite you to follow the podcast so that we can continue this journey together. It ensures each new episode is waiting for you whenever you are ready to tune back into your body. Thank you for being here. I'll see you on the next episode.